We are the tribe from the north, we're brave and we're bold. Defeating our rivals never gets old. Making our way to the Big Sky Conference. Watch out, 'cause here comes the silver and gold. Whoa, whoa. This is Tubbs at the Club for the Vandals of Idaho.
Welcome back, Tribe from the North, Brave and Bold, to the official, unofficial podcast of your Idaho Vandals and your Vandal affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chris Hammond, and joined with me today, I have the Professor Brian Marceau. How are you doing, Brian?
Doing great, dude. This was a pretty wild game we're going to talk about.
I know. Let's freaking get into it, but can't forget to introduce, running the show from the shadows, producer Dammer, who's like, shadows have been lifted for a while now, but producer Dammer, how are you?
I am good. I'm just going to jump right out and say it. I was horrifically wrong about how I thought this game would go, and I am so happy about that.
Yeah, I guess week one when we were in the club, we got to say Brian Eat Crow Marceau. There's no good way to rhyme with your name, but a little bit of crow. You got like the side order. You got like crow. You got like crow wings. You got an appetizer of crow feet. Not the whole meal, but like a little appetizer of crow.
No, but because he picked the right winner. But we'll get to the details of this. But no, good God, no one at least had the details of this when we recorded last time. No one was gonna be like, oh yeah, we're gonna see this all Vandals magic take place, and it's gonna be one of the most competitive games we've had all season. No, actually, not the most competitive. Every goddamn game's competitive so far.
Yeah. What did we name this? We just gave it like live reaction. We should have said the allvandals.com.
This is the
game of the century.
It's the Borisch game.
The Borisch game. The Borisch game. Anyways, all right, before we get real nitty-gritty into it, plus I need to crack a beer anyways. Ain't nothing like cracking a Montucky cold snack, an ultra refreshing light beer born in majestic Big Sky country. Best part is when you crack a snack, you're giving back. Montucky Cold Snacks donates 8% of profits back to local causes, even right here in Idaho, supporting organizations like the CW Hogs and the Idaho Food Bank. Yeehaw! That's freaking awesome. Montucky Cold Snacks, the light American log for pow pow rippers, gator wranglers, pony riders, and badass do-gooders. Visit MontuckyColdSnacks.com today to find out how to get, some snacks. What a game. The Vandals lose 38-31 by our energy. You might have guessed we won because in a way it feels like a win. I don't know how to describe it. What a game. I guess Dallas, if you want to start, just because we've hinted at kind of like your take here in the beginning. What did we just watch 60 minutes of?
So we just watched 60 minutes of Paul Petrino saying, all four of my quarterbacks are unavailable. We have a kid who's played quarterback in high school. There's the All Vandals conspiracy that he should have been the quarterback the last few years. You know what? F it. We're going to run option plays with this guy at quarterback and see if we can sneak one out on Eastern. And they almost did. That was unbelievable to see in the span of less than a week. Idaho changed from this pass-heavy attack to 59 rushing attempts. Absolute insanity.
Well, and the flow of the game too, Dallas, is we started off, Eastern scores quick, and it looks again like, good Lord, we knew going in that Borisch was going to be starter. It was announced a little bit before the game, but we knew this. And it looked like, wow, we have to be able to run the ball. We dug ourselves a 7-0 hole. Could this have started off worse? Then Idaho marches down the field, scores again, and from then on, this was a competitive football game. Really, the result was in doubt until that interception late, Chris.
Yeah, which, as a Seahawks fan, maybe I had a different perspective on that. I was sitting here like, what do you mean? Ty goes to the receiver. I got away with it once back in 2011. I was okay not getting away with it today. This just needs to get put out there. We should not switch to the triple option offense permanently. It worked. You guys correct me if I'm wrong here. Doesn't it feel like the only reason this really worked was more of like we caught you sleeping? Like you thought we were going to be coming out with probably Beaudry or Nikhil and try to air it around the yard, even though we have a really good stable of running backs. And then we run out with a fourth string DB at quarterback running basically Georgia Southern's triple option, where it's like a weird hybrid where you actually throw the ball more than 10 times, but still have about as much efficiency as the team who throws the ball 4 times.
I mean, yeah, one of the things we have to have learned through this spring season is to kind of temper reactions to immediate performance. Borisch looked great running the ball, ran for over 200 yards. But, I mean, this was Idaho's version of Montana's +1 rushing game, where sometimes it's an option. Some of the times it wasn't. It was just deception where Borisch would do a fake handoff, then Roshan Johnson becomes his lead blocker. And that did work for us really through about 3 quarters. You can tell Idaho ran out of steam at the end. Eastern's still a talented team. It was our second best offensive output of the season in terms of points on the board. But Chris, I 100% agree. Doing this when there's minimal prep time or maybe no prep time for Aaron Best is one thing. Doing this like Montana State did, where teams know going in, this is the offense we're seeing, that's a different question. That'd be a radical reshuffling of what we have. And we've talked on this show. We have CJ Jordan on the sidelines right now. Probably won't see him, but
what a waste radically. And what a waste of Hatton and Cottrell for us to make that switch too. Oh
yeah, it's the shift you make if you have no choice but to make the shift. Look, Montana State also did not recruit under Jeff Choate trying to do that. That was just the end result they landed on when they couldn't get great quarterback play. We have CJ Jordan on the bench right now. He's gonna be playing in the future. There's no reason to radically restructure everything. What we should be is just say, yeah, that was a kick-ass game. Borisch had a great effort. He's a good athlete, but yeah, I wouldn't say we should change anything long-term based off this, Dallas.
Yeah.
Realistically, the running backs didn't look phenomenal enough to the point that you could say, yeah, you know what, this is going to work. One of these guys is going to get hot and be able to overcome any lack of talent that this team might have. That's usually what the triple option is used for, is to keep bad teams in games. 65 yards between Johnson and Romano, not fantastic. Borisch, to his credit, looked like he might have been the fastest guy on the field most of the time. But it felt a lot like Eastern was not expecting to see this. We punched him in the mouth, looked pretty good for those first 3 quarters, and then it just kind of petered out at the end as they kind of got used to expecting to see the quarterback's going to run the ball again. 33 of the 59 carries were quarterback keepers. So
yeah, I just love it. Like Eastern Washington, man. Twitter right now, we just got tagged, Tubbs of the Club, myself, and Big Sky Podcast Network in Eag Nation Athletics. Damn, it feels good to be in Eastern, Idaho, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, they are so hyped over beating a team that had 0 active quarterbacks. Like, at the end of the day, yes, our offense is what it is. Might be our best, second best offensive performance of the season. Eastern Washington scored with 6 minutes and 3 seconds left. Is that when Merritt's little zigzag touchdown that we just gave up on? Like, the whole different story there. But they beat a team that had no active quarterbacks. And they are acting like this is God. I mean, I get it. They just got upset by us twice. I was laughing, going how sad is it? How do we write the headline that Ty Graham will be 0-4 in this rivalry? I get it. It would have been 3 straight upset wins over the Eagles, 3 straight top 25 upset wins over the Eagles, 2 top 10 wins over the Eagles, I believe. So I get how they're hell, we beat the Vandals. But man, I mean, if you're an Eastern fan, I just don't understand how they are so excited and online right now, how they are so willing to talk smack after, I mean, I think it's safe to say escaping Idaho.
They escaped Idaho. Yeah, no question. Yeah. Chris, the way I think Eastern, look, the way we talked about this on Twitter is this game is house money for Idaho.
Yeah.
Eastern's number 9.
We went for it on 5 fourth downs?
Yep. Eastern's number 9 in the nation. We're playing an offense we had a week to prep for. If this game is close, that's fun as hell for Idaho. If we win, that's fantastic. But the number 9 team in the nation should never lose against a team starting a non-quarterback. And when I say that, I know Zach Borisch has background as quarterback, but since he's been at Idaho, aside from maybe some Zoom meeting quarterback work that we talked about last time, he's been a safety, and he was in the running back. He was listed as a running back a little bit too, Chris. Otherwise, that's been his prep. So,
which Thigpen, I mean, I know we're in a weird year with eligibility. Running back is where he should be. Like, seeing what he was able to do today, that guy can see holes and he can break some tackles. Like, he will end up being a successful running back for us. I don't think quarterback is the future, but some wildcat formation absolutely should be in every year that he's here. And as a running back, he has proven he should be getting more looks. The fact that his first snaps are coming in week 5 of this spring season is sad. And I get we have a stacked field ahead of us, but I mean, you guys touched on it. Roschon and Nick Romano, 50-something, 65 yards. Big Pen, only 2 carries. That on its own is a shame. Zach Borisch, though, like, leads the team, 200? I can't read it. 265 yards rushing on 13 attempts?
205 rushing yards on 33 attempts.
So 33, so he's average, but still 6.2 yards a carry. 2 touchdowns. Like, I get it, direct snap, but that guy has ball carry. I mean, we were talking about it with Nick Romano, who may not have had the big running back game, but on kick returns today, he showed why we led the FCS and FBS last year in average kick return yards without housing one, which I have never heard of. You don't run a single kickback, but you lead both Division I conferences in average return yards. Nick Romano, he's not super fast, he's not super shifty, and he's not super strong, but he just has the perfect combination of all three with ball carrier vision, and that's how Borisch looked today. Although he is shifty and he is fast, so that's actually not a fair comparison.
What I would love to see out of Borisch, and Dallas, I want you to tell me if you think this is just a dumb hot take. I wish Borisch could become Idaho's Jerry Louis McGee. You try to get him short passes where he has room to make people miss, because he looked like the best guy we have on the team at making people miss. But through a ton of this game, when he had rushes that looked like a little bit closer to just like a traditional rushing play, he was not quite as successful. But I mean, that's kind of how Idaho's running backs were, not just today, but for much of the season, minus the SUU game. But when he's in a position where you can use the way he's both quick east-west, but fast north-south together, I mean, that's where he was. That's part of why he ran wild like he did, is when he was able to create some deception or misdirection. That's when he was able to blow by. You also saw him. The announcer said he's just looking for openings and going there. And when I say that might sound like, well, duh. But what it means is he like after he had gained a couple of yards, it was past line scrimmage. He had multiple rushes where then he makes a huge veer opposite direction, and he's just finding space and making plays, Dallas.
Yeah, it's almost maddening to me to see this guy has been buried on special teams or as a safety or a fourth or fifth running back. Why is he not seeing the ball more? I don't mean to take away from Cottrell Haywood fair catching punts, because that's a very good skill to have, making sure you don't turn it over on special teams. But throw him back there as the punt returner. Put him outside next to Romano on the kick returns. Let's see if he can break something. I mean, Romano's been great at kickoff returns, don't get me wrong, but Borisch looked electric out there. Like you were saying, looking for that open space, kind of reevaluating as he's running. Get that guy the ball more, even if it's line him up in the slot as a receiver, put him in the backfield, do a wildcat package where, assuming CJ Jordan is the guy, have CJ take a snap at receiver and put Borisch back there, see what teams think of it. I just don't understand. I would love to see this guy as Jerry Louis McGee, just in 5 different positions in every game. I would love to see that from here on out. What about you, Chris?
I mean, I think you nailed it. I think something like Jerry Louis McGee is fair. Travis Johnson, Montana State's another good example where you find ways to get him the ball, which is kind of what we thought Jackson was going to be, what we thought Chauncey Smart was going to be, what we thought before that. I think it was McCormick or another guy from, not McCormick, but from Nevada. We've been looking for that guy, which is a little bit frustrating that he's been there possibly all along. I know all Vandals is going to be frustrated saying he should be able to play quarterback. And this game probably makes them feel the same, if not more so. I like Zach Borisch. Like, I'm all for us local kids. Judo background, like running back, I get it. He knows how to balance. I still think defense, like, I think he'd be one hell of a safety. I mean, you look at this game, Jackson Woodward, who is a young safety, still has a lot of room to grow as a safety, had a fantastic game, got hurt. McCormick comes in, still plays all right. Probably the best our secondaries looked all year. I'll have to rewatch the game before I'm like gonna nail that statement in. But man, you just look at that. Like, would Borisch be that much worse at safety than any of those guys? Because we saw in the Southern Utah game where I believe it was Woodward missed an easy open field tackle. Like, Borisch won't do that. So I get it was exciting to see him at quarterback. Am I happy to see we have that guy? Do we have, per se, I know he's returning, the next Troy Anderson in the Big Sky, because Borisch is redshirt sophomore, I believe, because he gray-shirted, redshirted. So, like, he's still got a lot of eligibility. Like, is he the next Troy Anderson? Like, is it going to be that bad if we give him 5 snaps at quarterback at a Wildcat every game? No. In fact, it'll probably benefit us. Is it going to hurt us if maybe we put him at a wingback on sweeps? No. Running back? No. Tight end? No. Like, he's an athlete. They keep bringing it up on the broadcast. We brought him here as an athlete. Let him be athletic. Release his athleticism. Because this game, if anything, just shows that we took the number 9 team in the country to basically the wire with a defensive back at quarterback. I mean, his athleticism alone, this game was Borisch's athleticism versus Barrier's athleticism. And Barrier's won, but not by much.
Yeah, we had a weird play from Barrier both games against Idaho. He was clearly, I mean, look, Chris, you talked last week on the episode.
Number, man. He sees ghosts.
You did
he sees ghosts.
Well, except at the end, in the fourth quarter, he finally was willing to run. And when he was willing to run, that was part of when Eastern really made their move, was instead of trying to get him to rocket the ball into tight windows. And of Barrier's strengths, it's his athleticism. He can get the ball deep. Accuracy is not the top marker of why Eric Barrier is a great quarterback. I mean, because we've talked about this on the show.
It's his legs.
The Vernon Adams comparison is terrible because Vernon Adams was freakishly accurate. That's kind of Barrier's issue.
And a cannon.
Yeah. Barrier, this game, the wind might have mattered, which, hey, the winds were 25 miles an hour. The answers kept talking about it. Barrier was better yards per attempt this game than he was against Idaho week 1. He was 8.1 yards per attempt compared to 5.9 in week 1. But some of that, he really had a few deep throws that really pumped that up. Otherwise, he's 18 to 38, sub 50% completion percentage. Still got 309 yards and 2 touchdowns, but man, he was real close to a couple picks.
Yeah, and let's put it this way. Week 1, his 1 pick was off of his wide receiver's hands, so not his fault.
Yeah.
The 2 picks that should have happened, I mean, you can't say should have. They dropped them. Like we said, our secondary all year, that is very on par for them, to be honest. But let's just say you play Weber State. Those are 2 picks, right? Those were actual picks. Like, that was not off your wide receiver. That was not like you made the wrong, your wide out went one way. He was making bad reads. And then let's not forget, there was that play where in the end zone, he should have gotten intentional grounding, but unfortunately, we jumped up in the air. It hit Christian Ellis's hands, which then caused it to be deflected, so it wasn't getting it. That ball was not getting to the line of scrimmage. There was no one in the area. That would have been intentional grounding in the end zone. Like, he got bailed out a couple of times in this game.
Oh, he absolutely did.
But he's still the best quarterback in the FCS. I mean,
well, he is. I mean, that's the weird thing is Idaho is probably just a terrible matchup for him. And we've actually seen that now 3 consecutive games where it's not like we make him look terrible,
but we make him look average.
Yeah, we make him look like a high volume passer versus an elite quarterback.
Yeah, and we make it this way. We don't allow Barrier to beat us. Pierce beat us today. Or not Pierce, Merritt. Merritt got what, 3 rushing touchdowns?
Yeah, Merritt was 9. I mean, I wouldn't say Merritt beat us. He was 9 rushes, 64 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like the 3 touchdowns matter. Merritt did have a huge footprint on the game. Although, I mean, even as well as we feel like we played defensively, Eastern scored 3 points below their average. I mean, they're just a very strong offensive team. One of the differences this week, Chris, is when Idaho scores 31 points, like we've talked about on the show earlier. If we can score around 30, man, we're going to hang with just about anyone, and we saw that today, even with Borisch at quarterback.
Yep, and I mean something just for Vandal fans to sink their teeth into, right? Idaho State loses by 6 points to Weber today. So once again, like I get it that everybody was super down on this program after the Idaho State loss. Idaho State and Southern Utah are just these weird teams, man, where they're just going to be competitive. It just goes to show that, are we Weber? No, obviously. That's why Idaho State beat us by 2 or whatever it was, where they beat Weber lost to Weber by 5 or 6. Like, Southern Utah's the same thing this year. I haven't looked at the NAU Southern Utah score, so for all I know, NAU blew them out. But, like, I think also something said about Weber. Like, the Big Sky this spring is surprisingly competitive. Weber has had the benefit of, it was no secret, we all covered it, the easiest schedule in the Big Sky. And they have, I think it's fair to say, stumbled through it. Like, it has not been easy for them. They've had 1 blowout win, and then 10 points against Davis, Hail Mary against NAU, close one against Southern Utah, close one against Idaho State.
Yeah, they actually have the same dynamic, Chris, in their schedules.
We are Weber light.
Exactly. Yeah, we're Weber light in that our secondary isn't strong enough yet for us not to be scoring points like Weber. Weber's just strong. No, every defensive facet and special teams, Weber's just very good. Idaho's very good. We've talked about 1,000 times. Front 7, great. Stopping the run. For the most part, we've been great at stop and run this year. Secondary is the question. But the last 2 games to me, and maybe a little bit against Southern Utah, but the last 2 games, I think we found what this team needs to do, which is we need to lean on our front 7 and getting to the quarterback as our way of bailing out our secondary to give them more looks. Because our secondary did start to make a couple plays later in the game. We already talked about the almost picks, but there were also other non-interception plays, like that 4th down conversion that Eastern's tight end looks like maybe he could have come down with the pass, but also I think that if that was Deadman on the tackle, I think he got a hand in there too, which is, some of that is stuff we hadn't seen, certainly like early against Southern Utah. But both Idaho and Weber State didn't get the benefit of playing Cal Poly. So we didn't get to have that week where we pump up our scoring margin like every single other team did. And yeah, dude, that's where we are. We're 2-3. The argument against Idaho being 5-0 is as strong as the argument against Idaho being 0-5 right now, which makes it wild. Just with when every game's close, that's what we're at. But Chris, I like that. I actually was thinking about that earlier in the game. We are kind of like Weber State light.
Yeah, Weber gets it done. I mean, I think it was you who may have coined this, where it was like, yeah, Weber State doesn't want to win pretty. They like their games are what they are. They don't care about putting up points. Like that's what Idaho is, except it doesn't fit our coach's personality at all, who's an offensive guru. And and we lose those games. Like, I was already sitting there. Like, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to say counting my chickens before I hatch, but I was trying to stay one step ahead, always have multiple different plans going. I was like, all right, well, next week, if I win, like you're thinking the pick'em challenge, right? Because I want the crown, the imaginary crown that doesn't exist, but we totally are going to make. I was like, how do I win the pick'em? I was like, well, the obvious choice is Idaho is going to lose NAU. And I was like, that should be a bold take. But I was like, but I see Dallas taking that. Like, so then do I have to pick Idaho and then I lose and we tie? Like, I was sitting there thinking, like, I was already in my mindset of like, I think we win next week. Now, had we won this game, it's not Tuesday. We would have lost NAU, right? I mean, is that?
Oh, you mean to follow the typical
like,
Idaho
in the multiverse?
Yeah, to follow the Idaho program, if we come away with a big win, then we lose to Northern Colorado. Then we hang with Weber State and get shut out at Portland State.
Yeah.
Yes, if that's the template you're
beat
following,
Eastern
Chris,
Washington, we lose to UC Davis. We beat Eastern Washington, we lose to NAU. It just fits the footprint. You get a big win, especially against Eastern, and you just like don't show up the next week. I mean, I know UC Davis, that's not really fair. That was a tough game. UC Davis is a top 15 team, I think, still. Like, I get that, but still at home, we talked about it. We did not play great. Game was probably closer than it should have been in terms of Idaho hanging in it. Like, I just felt like, dude, if we pull this off, this is one of those things where Idaho wakes up and on Thursday we hear about like another 18 COVID cases and we're running our sixth string tight end at quarterback next week.
Yeah, Chris, you're saying that the team somehow becomes like the single spot in the U.S. where everyone gets reinfected within like 3 weeks.
Yeah, we're like the testing of like, you don't need a vaccine, just let everybody get the disease.
Yeah.
We're testing ground for herd immunity. This probably not going to age well. We're
the variant. We would be the variant delivery system if we would have won this week. We would be
the control.
There'd be the Moscow variant coming through, sweeping the United States. It only shows up after like the best thing in your life happens. Moscow variant slams you, takes out the next couple weeks. But man, Chris, I don't really know. No, this was one of the most fun games to watch for me in a long time. Do you have anything? Do you have anything generalizable into this? Not only next week, but maybe into the next season that you're taking away from what you saw this game? We already talked about, hey, Zach Borisch was fun. Please don't turn into +1 running as our overall attack. But is there anything else you see generalizable from this game that maybe we didn't see in other games or gives us more clarity about what we saw in the past?
All right, I got 2 takes then. I'll start with the more nailed down, not broad, kind of hot takey approach, which is Tom Hennessy was watching it at my house, started safety for a little bit. Dad's leading all-time tackler for the program. It's crazy. I was asking him, like, well, what do you think about the spring season, right? Like, is this good? Is this bad? And he goes, look, like, I feel bad for these guys because of testing and everything. Like, that's a lot to put on a college kid. But at the same time, he goes, these guys are getting meaningful game experience. And I was like, well, what do you think about, he goes, like, is it preferable that you've had 4 quarterbacks get actual game reps this spring? No. But at the same time, when fall rolls around, how much more confident are you if, let's say, CJ Jordan wins the job and he goes down? So let's be honest, the spring, some of these injuries, like, let's be honest, from what we've heard, Nikhil's is a hand thing. If it's fall and he's a starter, he's probably playing. But because it's spring and we're not in the playoffs, you're like, why make it worse? CJ Jordan, from what we've heard, is a hamstring. Probably if this is fall and we're in a playoff hunt, he goes. But it's spring. We have nothing really to lose. Why risk it for fall? So, like, we're kind of doing this weird, like, how many teams, it's not a good thing, but have gotten 3 quarterbacks and a running back serious game time reps at quarterback? How many wide receivers like Hayden Hatton, who, if we did not play this spring, let's be honest, had we not played this spring and we were talking about fall, we would still be talking about Hayden Hatton in like a position battle with DJ Lee and Jermaine Jackson and probably a handful of 4 other dudes. And it's obvious now that Cottrell hopefully can figure some stuff out for the fall because he seems like the guy. But right now, Hayden Hatton is the one. Like, hands down, he is our one. And had we not played this spring, we would have never realized that. You know, it's like, and that just benefits us. Hayden Hatton has gotten 6 games to like really fine tune this to where now he has hopefully a quarterback he can work with all summer and fall. We don't know if Beaudry's staying or he's going to CFL. CJ's going to be healthy. Nikhil, screw it for all Vandals. We don't know if Borisch is starting next year. Like, the reps are big. I mean, we've been starting 3 offensive line for the majority of this season. Our freshmen on the offensive line for the majority of the season. You pair that with CJ Jordan, man, the year 2024 looks real freaking promising. Like when you have 3 seniors on your offensive line and a senior quarterback that have actually played 5 to 6 seasons, that is insane to think about. And I get that around the country, there's examples of that everywhere, but I don't think to that extreme. I don't think everywhere else around the country there's a CJ Jordan. I don't think everywhere else around the country they have God dang it, it's going to piss me off. I can't remember the center's name. I know Bagwell was back today, but like the guy from wherever who's starting as a freshman right now, just like how big is that? And hopefully it pays dividends. Now we'll see our linebacking core. We'll have to reload. I mean, to say that we will have 2 to 3 NFL guys at 2024, no. I think it's safe to say probably not. We probably won't have an NFL guy in 2024. But so appreciate our defense while we have it. But I think we're about to see a huge shift towards what, I don't know, offensive genius Paul Petrino wants to do in terms of becoming an offensive team and looking more like Eastern and less like Weber Light. My other take on this has like been my big complaint this whole season. And I don't want to get into like their barriers because like at the end of the day, a year changing doesn't matter, this century, a decade. But like people always go, oh, like, well, historically last decade. People forget in 2009, 2010, North Dakota State wasn't anything. We're in a new decade. So capture the freaking decade. This team looks very poised to make noise in this decade. Eastern Washington was nobody in the mid-2000s, and they owned 2010 to 2019. Though we are playing in spring of 2021, this is effectively the 2020 season. This is a brand new decade. The teams at the top inevitably will fall. Eastern has shown chinks in the armor. They are number 9 in the country, but they have almost lost to Idaho twice this year. I get the first game. You know what? Idaho snuck out of that one. That is safe to say. No head coach, no Ojo, a field goal that was good that might have changed the game, even though, math. But today, Eastern survived Idaho. Like, they were the better team. Idaho hung in there, but it was there. I don't know. I don't want to put Montana 2 on spot because, like, I know they just had a huge win over Central Washington, which, by the way, did you guys see that snowed? I can't believe they didn't cancel the game. But it's just like, we're in a new decade. Turn the page. Everybody, program, everything. There is no way. Montana ran 2000, 2009, and then almost completely dropped off the map in the 2010s. It's what happens. I don't know if it's mental. North Dakota State ran the whole decade. Like, decades are weird. App State no longer, like, it's a new decade. Be the team that captures the freaking decade. History no longer matters. It was a different decade ago. So that's my point I want to, like, put out to the Idaho fans. It's like, yes, that last decade freaking sucked. Like, we had 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 years you could claim. 2010, 16, and 17 is like, oh, they were all right. But, like, let's move past that. We have so many blocks in place. Now, whether the coach, I know a lot of people don't think the coach in charge now is the guy to get us there, and maybe he's not. You know what? That's not my decision. Congratulations, Terry. Earn your paycheck. Either keep him, get rid of him, whatever. But, like, it's a new decade, and this just goes to show that Idaho can hang with a number 9 team in the country with a defensive back at quarterback. And at the flip side, it shows that while Eastern Washington is the number 9 team in the country, I don't think it is that big of a stretch to say it looks like they maybe turned the page.
Dallas, what about you with generalizable takeaways from this week?
You're on mute.
Thank you.
Got you, fam.
It may have been the fact that Cheney blows, and my goodness, was it blowing today. The balls were just fluttering everywhere. So, again, I'm trying to take this with a grain of salt, but the defense was credited with 9 pass breakups today. We weren't seeing guys 20 yards open down the field like we had been in previous games. Again, that may have been part of the issue with Cheney just blows so hard. But that was promising to me. I know Talolo Limu-Jones went out. I know that there's always different plays that teams are looking for to make, and when he's gone, that changes kind of the deep shots. But our secondary didn't get shredded as bad as they have been. There were promising moments. Not all of them were Eastern drops this time. Some of them were Idaho getting to balls. So that's my positive takeaway. Outside, Chris really spoke on a lot of it, but that's one thing that I didn't hear him say that actually was something I am trying to be positive about. The secondary might slowly be getting better. It's not like it could have gotten much worse. But
and we had Darian Nash on the way. Like, to be fair, he was the corner a lot of teams picked on for Montana, who also didn't have a strong pass defense last year. But, like, he made plays against Idaho, so I'm hopeful that it's more he was just covering the one and had no help. But, like, I agree with that. Like, we were talking about it. We haven't had a good secondary since probably 2010. And to be fair, a lot of that, like, yeah, Aaron Grimes played in the CFL and a little bit in the NFL, and you had Arts and Patton. But, like, it was Shiloh Ko just being able to cover 33% of the field, and everybody else just had to, like, split the rest of the 66. The secondary, I mean, the performance they put against Eastern, at least you can build a hope on going into the fall, especially with a heavy recruiting class in defensive backs. You got a transfer coming back in. Jalen Hoover is our best guy right now, but hopefully knowing that maybe he can have some help and maybe not be our best, be our 2 or our 3, because I'm just not convinced he's a 1. Like, he's not a lockdown. Him versus Sammy Akem, like, I know, for instance, I blasted the Eastern receivers, and I still stand by this. They're good, but, like, he could shut down Tolu. He didn't, but, like, in essence, cut down on numbers for Boston, Jones, Roberson, etc. He's not going to stop Sammy Akem. Like, and that's the problem is we still haven't beaten Montana. We've beaten Eastern twice. You want to talk about a rivalry? We've beaten Eastern twice. Probably should have beaten them 3 times. We've been smoked by Montana the 2 times we played them. So if you want to turn that page, how are we going to stop Montana and Sammy Akem? I know Samora Toure is gone, but, like, there's a whole nother page we got to turn here. And, like, can we shut down a group of wide receivers when our line, like, I've said it all year. All this secondary has to do is cover for 4 seconds. 2 seconds and we should have a sack, and 2 seconds after that, and they should be able to bounce off whatever missed sack they had and create pressure on the quarterback. They can't cover for 4 seconds, and that's been the issue.
So the takeaway, Chris, I'm going to stay a little bit closer to home, because I mean, you're right. We need to beat Montana teams, but there's other developmental steps we have to hit first, which is in this game. Look, dude, we're unabashedly excited because of the obvious setup with a non-quarterback. We can't escape the fact that this was our second best offensive outing of the entire spring, which means our other guys certainly offensively have not looked good enough. We scored more this time against Eastern than we did the first time, and we didn't have a quarterback. So when we transition back to our offensive guru that we've now, look, that's just his name from now on. We have the dead horse for the other thing. It's just the offensive guru from this point. If Idaho has to find a way to be able to score regularly, because that's really been our inhibiting factor. Even when our defense hasn't looked as strong, like we've talked about our secondary getting picked apart, we're still not giving up 1,000 points. That's just the area teams happen to exploit. So to me, the generalizable takeaway is if Paul's offenses can quit sucking, this is what games are going to look like. No one's going to be able to blow us out. We're not going to hold teams as low as Weber State, but if we're scoring over 30, this is going to be a good football team. The downside is this spring we've only beat 30 twice. The second is I really do think we found the format for what we have to do right now. Obviously, we need better recruits at the quarterback. Until that's there, we're just going to have to accept that a quarterback who's real accurate is going to, like Justin Miller, is going to have the ability to pick us apart sometimes. But if we can get pressure on the quarterback like we did against Barrier, like we did a lot versus Tyler Vanderwall, the guys who are not as accurate in terms like, pinpoint accuracy like a Justin Miller, those guys are going to have to connect on difficult shots deep, or they're not going to move the ball as well, because truly Eastern wasn't marching down the field a ton, but they did get some pretty big pass plays early, like the 18-yard touchdown. Freddie Roberson was their first touchdown. Limu Jones had a 66-yard touchdown. That wasn't them driving down the field. That was
wide open.
Yep, that was Limu Jones breaking away. We can't have that happen. But the way this team right now makes that happen less is when we can get pressure on the quarterback, so he doesn't have the comfort to be looking for open guys. So, as far as Idaho moving on, and what we're going to look forward to later is our defense is strong, but we just have to be able to have a league average to slightly above league average offense based off until we get a secondary this Weber State level. That's what we're going to be exploited. We have to put points on the board. This week we put points on the board finally. Although that's honestly what I think people should hold in their head is, I know this game was weird, but we scored way better than usual. So that to me is going to shoot a question back to, what do we have to do differently the rest of the weeks? Because truly we're not going to likely go back to this. How the heck do we unlock an offense that has talent? That's been the frustration, is we have talent on the offensive end that has not translated into production.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this, it seems like, in almost every single show for as long as I've been around. It's just, how do we keep from the inevitable letdown next week? If this is the offense, if we're not going to shock NAU coming out in the triple option, how do we make sure that Borisch doesn't put up the same sort of rushing attempts, but have a third of the rushes a third of the yards because NAU is prepared for it? Now, NAU's defense is terrible, so not like I'm expecting them to do particularly well against it. But what is the key here? You can see just the drive chart here. First half, everything looked great. Third quarter, again, a couple touchdowns. We get the last 4 drives: punt, pick. What does Idaho have to do to get more consistent, be it this triple option attack led by Borisch or somebody else, or if they move back to the passing heavy game? What is it about year 8 or 9 what do we need to do to find the way to consistently score points? Because like you said, and I feel like I'm just repeating a lot of your points, but when Idaho scores 30, games are close. It's getting to 30 that seems to be the struggle with this team.
My apologies for waiting for me. I had a phone call.
We'll forgive you someday, dude. Adds drama. Hey, dude, it adds drama to the listeners or to the watchers. Everyone's seeing Chris. Oh, is he pissed? What's going on?
Timothy Hopkins was trying to join the show, but he can't figure out our new fancy software since he was last on the show. Yeah. I was like, bro, I can't help you with this, man. We're live. I gotta go.
But, Chris, I think that, one of the things we talked about last week on the show is that this game did mean a lot to Idaho. Now, it didn't turn out the way that we wish it would. Obviously, we would rather be looking at sitting at 3-2, not 2-3, and that's where we're at. Next game is going to matter a ton to finishing at 500 and saying that, the growth we feel we've seen materializes into wins, Chris. But I'm guessing we're approaching closing time. You have any final takes you want us to use our launching off point into next week, man?
Well, it's actually the perfect launching point. Like, if we can make a transition, this is the transition. Idaho has one away win since joining the Big Sky, and that was at NAU. We are still looking for number 2. Will it come at NAU? For the rest of Paul Petrino's tenure, will our only away wins be at NAU? First, we got to win next week for it to be the case. But something to keep, in mind. We've talked about how we've had a lot of close games. Meanwhile, Weber State in 2019, and no, that's not true. Actually, I was about to say, and UC Davis this year, Montana actually kicked our asses at home. I was going to say, our closest losses have been by about 10 to 11 points. But we played pretty good at home. We've beaten Eastern twice at home. We've lost to Eastern twice on the road. We blew out Idaho State at home. We've lost to Idaho State twice on the road. Can we beat NAU twice on the road? Be 2-0 on the road against NAU. We'll see next week. Something to improve upon as we look into fall 2021. We got to start winning some road games, man, because we are not the team right now that is going to go 6-0 at home. We just aren't. We're probably going to go. We only get 5 games from the FCS now. Different debate, but 4-1, 3-2, probably what our home record's going to be. So you're gonna have to win more than 0.5 a year on the road to be able to make the playoffs. Because I think it was on Big Sky Big Takes this week. They asked, is Paul Petrino on the hot seat? I was like, well, he's kind of always been on the hot seat. What would it take for him to get fired? It's like next year his contract is officially buyoutable after the fall season. We have to be last week of the season. Playoffs are in hope. Now, if we make them or not, maybe he could save his job for the one more year of his contract. Is it worth paying him, $800,000 to fire him if we lose the playoffs on the last week of the season compared to just giving him one more year? Not my decision. Once again, congratulations, Terry Golick. Glad you got the job. Have fun with the decisions. But we have to be pushing playoffs next year. And to do that, we have to start winning on the road. And it all starts next week at NAU.
Dallas, about you.
So I'm going to be a paragon of positivity, which is something I'm sure nobody's expecting. I think Idaho is going to beat the brakes off of NAU next week. I don't think NAU is going to be able to throw the ball on Idaho at all, which is fantastic. But Chris's points are very accurate. They have to start winning on the road. You can't go one road win in 2.5 seasons or whatever you want to call this half season. I don't want to go into a giant rant like I've gone into the last few shows, but at the end of the day, you have to start winning on the road. And next week would be a great starting point where I kind of hoped it would be last year or a year and a half ago. Get that win, and Mason's final game, he gets to go out a hero. Looks like we've got these great passing numbers and we're building towards next year. And then what happens? They haven't won a game on the road. So I hope Chris is right. I hope what my initial 30,000 foot view of, NAU sucks. They can't throw the ball. This looks like a win. Maybe that will be a building block to the fall. Or maybe we're here 6 months from now talking about, still haven't won a game on the road. When the hell's Paul gone? When is this going to fix?
So first thing, we have a fact check. We have to assault Chris with a fact check. NAU and SUU hasn't kicked off yet, so just no one's losing. No one's winning, no one's losing.
When's that kick off?
I would have to Google that right now. I just when you referenced it earlier, I looked it up
without the answer to the fact. Either way, I'm excited.
The fact check is it hasn't started. It hasn't started yet. My takeaway from this game is for Idaho, not just into next week, but into the fall. Idaho is among the many teams in the Big Sky that in the spring they look much stronger than they did during fall 2019. I think even though our record is 2-3, we won. We didn't play Cal Poly, which Idaho State got to play Cal Poly. So if we're going to talk about teams improving, we do have to factor in if you get to play the worst team in the history of football any of us have seen. That needs to be acknowledged. Idaho has not done that, but Idaho State looks better. Southern Utah looks better. Eastern I know they just played a close game with us, but they're still scoring over 40 points a game. Their defense looks a little bit stronger. They're not a great matchup for us because of our size, but they match up great against a ton of the conference. The Big Sky, top to bottom, minus Cal Poly, is going to be competitive as hell. So for Idaho to take a step out of the way, I'd categorize us right now as being in the same class as Idaho State and Southern Utah, in that we should be the team that can jump out of that, because I think we're the most overall talented, but there's a couple things holding us back from turning our promise into actual wins. But the Big Sky Conference is really good. For us to take that step, we will need to definitely get improved play from the offensive line. Secondary is going to have to it doesn't have to become all world. It just has to be a little bit more passable, which we saw during this game. There were some moments where our corners did make plays that kept us in the game. That's actually kind of new this season. So that's a pretty big, maybe that's a pretty big step for us. But circle back to that point, we scored 31 to stay competitive. If we had our average output in this game of 25, it's nowhere near as close as it feels right now. Idaho's thing we need to use against NAU as our launching point, I think, is how do we turn this team into something solid offensively, or we have no choice. We're going to have an elite defense, or we're just going to be stuck in this 500 world of we're talented, but there's just a little bit more needed to make the next step. It always feels like it's there, but it hasn't been. That's where I am, Chris. I just don't think you can watch these last Idaho games and not read that some of the disappointment that you've heard from, most likely from me in Dallas, but from any Vandal fan, is this team has objective talent superiority at certain positions compared to even the best teams in the Big Sky like Eastern Washington. We just have to be able to capitalize on that in a way we haven't over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I got a couple takeaways before we close the bar. One, quick predictions, because we don't let it on. We usually know a bit more than most on Tuesdays, but we try to keep it close to the chest just in case we're wrong. We're not in the business to have an egg on our face. Who's quarterback
except for me
next
apparently.
week? Well, only this week, and it was Crow. But who's quarterbacking next week?
You asking?
Yeah, like your guess right now. Who's
I guess
quarterbacking against NAU?
100% depends upon Nikhil's health. If Nikhil's hand, like you said, the injury is likely a hand injury, which that would actually potentially help explain some of the accuracy issues that I
heard it was other hand, though, to be fair.
God damn it.
But, I mean, we don't know that much.
I think
look at the player's hands. Just from what I've heard, non-throwing hand injury.
I think if Nikhil or Beaudry are able to go, it has to be either Nikhil or Beaudry, because I don't think the future of this team is the +1 running attack. I think +1 as a set, especially if the team's struggling through the air, as maybe this is how we go to try to change the rhythm of the game, is something I'd love to see Idaho keep. But the future of this program, until we're told that it's +1 with Borisch under center, it's not. So if either Beaudry or Nikhil are healthy enough to go, Beaudry is concussion, Nikhil has his hand, we have to have one of those guys go. Otherwise, it isn't really a developmental start. It's a get through it start. Unless, Chris, you're sold on us going to +1, but you've already been on the record. You don't think that's the direction we go.
Triple option has never won a championship since the 80s in any major level of football. So, hell no, we're not moving to the triple option. Borisch did great. He should be able to handle the ball, just not a quarterback. I agree with you. I think Beaudry's going to get the call. He's out due from what we've heard, concussion protocol. Unless he absolutely got his tooth put through his skull, like, he shouldn't have a 2-week concussion. Speaking of, I didn't even notice the hit that would have done it in Idaho State, and I get concussions are wonky. It could be more severe. I just think this was more of a 1 week. It was too close to call because we're being safe, rightfully so. I think Beaudry's the guy. I think Nikhil's probably out. I think Jordan's probably out. So Borisch will probably have some run it too, which at the end of the day could hurt Idaho because now you're practicing triple option and our regular, because if Beaudry gets hurt, we have to immediately switch to this offense. But yeah, I'd wait. That's for our pregame show. I'd wager Beaudry.
I'd have to go Beaudry as well. I just feel like Beaudry. I mean, Paul named him the starter after the first practice. He's Paul's guy. If he's healthy, that's who it's going to be. That may be what I want. I want to see Beaudry back, and I want to see Borisch have some packages and maybe make this a little bit more fun, so it doesn't just look Beaudry throw. Oh, second and long. We're going to run it right up the middle. Third down, let's throw it 4 yards short of the sticks and hope that we get a first down. I don't want to go back to seeing that. So I'm just hopeful that Borisch is going to come in and they're going to get a little bit creative with it. But realistically, it's probably going to be Beaudry trying out the same offense they've had for years.
Well, last thing, because I know everybody sitting here has just absolutely been waiting for it. The colossal rivalry in the 44-degree weather of Missoula ended up 59-3 in the real FCS spring season. The Montana Grizzlies pull out the win against Central Washington.
Yeah, Montana, they just knew what to do, man. They nailed this all the way. Why would you play for a championship when you could schedule Central Washington to kick off at 10 a.m. Pacific time or something like that? Chris, you would trade this season for another shot, Simon Fraser, in an instant, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I was never excited about the playoffs. I hope you guys all caught on to that during the season. Never once did the playoffs excite me. Chance at a trip to Frisco did not excite me. That stuff doesn't get me excited. What excites me, exhibition games in overcast weather against Division II teams. Now you put them on our schedule like Simon Fraser. My only complaint is that God damn, we have that 72-degree, always sunny dome. Put that thing outside in December and let's go against Simon Fraser next year.
I don't think I could have said it better myself, Dallas. What about you? I mean, that's how you've always viewed sports, right? If you're Division I, why would you waste your time on Division I teams? There's a second division, Division II.
For a reason.
Hey, guys,
Division II.
Division II is one more points than Division I. So that obviously means that's where you want to spend your time. But Chris, I suppose we're closing in on the hour. I know we could keep going. But,
that was Around the Bar, brought to you by Hughes River Expeditions. If you're looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Venture into the largest protected wilderness in the continental United States, located right here in the great state of Idaho. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main salmon river of no return, Salmon River Canyons, or even special trips like the ones to see the Perside meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches. Run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and take in history all along the river's edge. Fish some of the most remote river in the country. Just bring your clothes and let HRE handle the rest. Hughes River Expeditions has been vandal-owned and operated since 1976 and ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. What are you waiting for? Find out what it's like to grab a paddle, catch dinner, ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 800-262-1882 or check them out at hughesriver.com. All right, closing the bar. You know how to find us. If you don't, it's like basically our names on Twitter. Otherwise, just Google it. At this point, we're pretty Google-to-the-bull. Anyways, we'll be back on Tuesday as we break down the final game of the year. I'll just say it right here. I don't think it's going to happen against NAU. Other than that, you guys think I'm wrong? Real quick, we got time. We're under an hour. Game going to happen? We playing on Saturday? Or on Saturday? Or on Tuesday? We're audibling to a quick little season recap.
Look, I agree with you. I just think you should have dropped this before 57 minutes in.
Well, we reward the ones who wait.
Dude, I think that Paul Petrino is going to want this to go no matter what because
I'm not worried about Paul.
I know, but
Paul
I mean,
will play NAU though.
Any footprint Paul could have, he wants us to go. He's 2-3. Right now, it's another losing season if he doesn't pick up that NAU win. However, to his credit, like if he gets the if he didn't get played like the two worst teams in the league when a lot of people did, we should acknowledge that. But he's 2-3.
Yeah, that's true. Small fact, and we're going to turn because we're going to hit the freaking hour mark. God dang it. My preseason rankings based on strength of schedule, Idaho had the third toughest strength of schedule. Factoring that in, that was when Southern Utah was supposed to be the worst team in the conference. We had that while playing Southern Utah as the worst team in the conference. To kind of show you how our schedule has – third toughest, not easiest. We've had a hard strength of schedule without playing Weber, and at the time we played Southern Utah, who ends up being better than Cal Poly. So Idaho fans, something to put the hat on the hook there for. But let's see how NAU does against Southern Utah today, 6 o'clock, Pluto, channel 1063. Check it in because if NAU loses, then this might be your last game recap. Anyways, time for the best band on the land, Idaho. Plays out. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.